Hey plebs, what's going on? Nexius here, and today I'm going to show you guys my fun Ashran build. I like to call this build the Hurricane Cleave, or the Ashran Hurricane Cleave. The reason for that is because, first of all, obviously it's for Ashran. Second, Hurricane is the nickname of my monk, and I came up with this build, so it's Hurricane. And Cleave because, well, you're going to be doing a lot of Cleave stuns and a lot of Cleave damage. So if you are finding yourself being forced into Ashran, whether it's for gearing or for conquest capping, for any reason, if you are a Windwalker going into Ashran, I recommend you try this build out. It's a lot of fun seeing big numbers, tons of numbers, and seeing half the raid get stunned. It's just so much fun. So before we get into the talent and glyph choices, I want to go over the strategy with you guys on how this build works. So the strategy is pretty simple. Place your Transcendence in your raid. That way, if you are ever in danger, you can teleport back and the healers can keep you alive. Now, once you've placed your Transcendence, you want to run into the enemy raid, roll, Flying Serpent Kick, whatever you choose to do, get yourself into the enemy raid. You want to open up with a Charging Oxwave. Yes, you heard that correctly. Charging Oxwave is being used in this game. Not Leg Sweep, not even Ring of Peace, but Charging Oxwave is being used. So use your Charging Oxwave first thing to stun a whole bunch of healers, whole bunch of DPS. That puts a lot of pressure on the enemy team right away. Every 30 seconds, it comes up pretty quick for 3 seconds. That's crazy. So being able to use Charging Oxwave that often and stunning, say, 5+ guys, it's huge. So make sure you are running Charging Oxwave. So open up with that as soon as you get into the enemy raid. After that, unleash all of your cleaving potential. What I like to use personally is Rushing Jade Wind, Chi Burst, Fist of Fury, Chi Explosion, and then of course use your jabs, Rising Sun Kick, everything else that you need to. But the main focus is your cleave damage. So focus any cleave damage into the build, into the enemy raid, whether it's Rushing Jade Wind, Chi Burst, Fist of Fury, Chi Explosions, whatever it is, put in as much damage as you can, and as soon as you see any form of danger coming your way, because keep in mind here, you are a melee player in Ashran. In Ashran, in any form of large-scale PvP, it is very easy for melee to get one-shotted by, say, 5 different DPS. So make sure as soon as you see yourself being targeted, you get out of there using Flying Serpent Kick, Touch of Karma, or even Transcendence like I stated. You can place the Transcendence ahead of time, and then you can teleport back when you sense any kind of danger. So once you've escaped, you can wait a couple seconds, go back in with Oxwave, stun everybody again, be annoying as fuck, and then of course throw in your cleave potential again, and then of course go into a Fist of Fury for the final stun. So overall, that's the whole basis of this strategy. You want to go in there, you want to disrupt the entire team, especially the healers if you can. Line up your Oxwave to do multiple stuns against all the healers if you can, at least a good amount of guys. If you can't get all the healers, that's fine. Just make sure you try and get like 4 or 5 guys at least, and you're going to be doing devastating damage potential to that enemy team by helping your raid, by of course reducing the amount of healing going out, and of course reducing the damage onto your team. So by doing all of these different stuns between Fist of Fury and Oxwave, you can throw in your cleave damage, which also is a great thing. So that's overall the strategy for this. So now we're going to go into the talents and the glyphs so we can decide exactly how we can optimize this potential strategy. So the first talent of choice that I have here is Tiger's Lust. Now, if you are running Chi Torpedo, you could go Celerity, but in my opinion, I don't run Chi Torpedo, I run Rushing Jade Wind, so because of this, Celerity is useless. I like to go with Tiger's Lust. If I sense any danger and Transcendence is on cooldown, I can Tiger's Lust out of there, and I'll be safe. The other reason is there are so many casters in Ashran usually, that it's very easy to get rooted at any time, and because of this, Tiger's Lust is even more important. So I always recommend Tiger's Lust compared to the other 2 talents. For the next talent, mandatory, guaranteed, go Chi Burst for 2 reasons. 1, Chi Burst overall does more damage than Zen Sphere and Chi Wave. The major reason as well is everybody is stacked up, so you can easily hit 5 or more guys with Chi Burst. And the amazing thing about Chi Burst is it doesn't work like other AoEs. AoEs like Blizzard, Flame Strike, Rain of Fire, and everything else, the damage lowers based on how many players it hits. But Chi Burst, it does the same damage to every target, doesn't matter how many you hit. So you could hit, say, 6 guys for 60k, which is absolutely crazy. So using Chi Burst is amazing for cleave damage. Use Chi Burst at all times, I recommend it. For the third talent of choice, I recommend Ascension. The reason for this is because you will be using Rushing Jade Wind and Chi Explosion together. On top of that, of course, throwing in jabs and expel harms, you're going to be using a lot of energy. So Ascension overall, in my opinion, is the best choice here in Ashran. For the 60 row, like I stated, we will be using Charging Oxwave. Ring of Peace is terrible. It breaks instantly because of the amount of AoE damage going out. Everybody's going to break on damage, so overall Ring of Peace is terrible. Leg Sweep is good. You could stick to Leg Sweep if you prefer it, but in my opinion, Charging Oxwave does way more useful utility, whatever you want to call it. It just does so much more. The reason for that is because, like I stated earlier, Ashran players like to stack up. Because of this, it's not really hard to stun 5 or more guys, and that makes it much more worth using compared compared to leg sweep if you were to stun 1, 2, maybe even 3 guys. On top of that, charging Oxwave has 15 seconds less of a cooldown, which means you can stun more often, which is an amazing thing to do. So by going charging Oxwave, not only are you stunning more often, but you're probably going to stun more targets compared to leg sweep. So that's why I like to run charging Oxwave with this build. With the next talent, you can either go with Healing Elixirs or Diffuse Magic. Either one works, whatever you prefer is fine. I personally prefer to run Diffuse Magic. The reason for this is because, like I stated earlier, Ashran does have a lot of casters, and because of this, Ashran will have all those casters targeting you, and you can easily be one-shotted. But if you use Diffuse Magic, you will reduce damage by 90%, and that should hopefully keep you alive to get away. So Diffuse Magic, I like to prefer a little bit more than the Healing Elixirs, but honestly, either one is fine. For the 90 row, I prefer rushing Jadewind. Like I stated earlier, for the second, third time, basically everyone likes to stack together. Because of this, it's very easy to hit 5 or more guys with rushing Jadewind, which overall makes it very worth using for all of that cleave damage. As long as you are using Ascension, you should be okay with the energy regeneration. Just make sure you have that rushing Jadewind for the cleave damage, throw in Fist of Fury, Chi Burst, and everything else, and you are doing a lot of damage to multiple targets. So rushing Jadewind is pretty amazing here. For the final talent, I like to run Chi Explosion for 2 reasons. The first reason is for Tiger Eye generation. You want to try and get 10 stacks as quick as possible every 30 seconds if you can. That way, every time your stuns come up, you can go in Fist of Fury with major damage, you can Chi Burst with major damage, rushing J1 with major damage. You guys see where I'm getting with this. On top of that, the second reason for going Chi Explosion is if you use it with 4 Chi, it does damage to all targets in a radius around your attacking target. So overall, that's even more cleave damage, basically another rushing Jadewind in a sense. So overall, more cleave damage, the better. So Chi Explosion, I recommend number 1 in this row as well. Now for the glyphs, this is actually kind of important. Surprisingly, most people stick with the same 3 glyphs every time in PvP. In Ashran's case, you can actually switch up a couple glyphs. The first one I would recommend is Touch of Karma. Now everybody uses this, so that's nothing different. I recommend Touch of Karma because there are a lot of casters. If you have to panic and save yourself by using Touch of Karma, you want to make sure you are in range for whatever target you are targeting, obviously. So Glyph of Touch of Karma I recommend for sure. The second glyph I recommend is Glyph of Flying Fists. This will increase the range of your Fist of Fury by 5 yards. This is huge because, first of all, Fist of Fury will then stun even more targets, and it will also do major damage to even more targets. The difference between Flying Fists and no Flying Fists, basically you could hit maybe 1 or 2 targets with a stun and damage, whereas Flying Fists you might hit, say, 7 or 8. Trust me, the glyph is huge. It's a huge range increase. Go with Flying Fists. It's huge cleave damage. It's huge stun advantage. It fits this build perfectly. So go with Flying Fists and, of course, Touch of Karma. For the final glyph, I recommend Glyph of Transcendence. Yeah, you heard that right. Glyph of Transcendence, a glyph that's pretty much never used, which isn't surprising because most glyphs are pretty terrible for monks, but overall Glyph of Transcendence is actually pretty decent in Ashran. For the same reason I recommended in the strategy, you want to place your Transcendence, you want to run in, you want to stun, you want to cleave damage, and as soon as you sense any danger, you want to Transcendence right out. The reason why this is important with this glyph is because you can actually Transcendence out more often, which means you can take more risks because you will always have Transcendence there to lay your back on in case you have to ever get out. Otherwise, you would have to wait an extra 5 seconds, which means you have less Transcendence uptime. So overall, I feel that Transcendence Glyph is actually quite amazing. It is only 5 seconds, so if you don't want to use it, it's not too big of a deal. But overall, I think it's a huge advantage to have. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, Nexius, why is there no Touch of Death glyph? And the reason for this is because in Ashran, monks can get a book where Touch of Death can be activated at 20% health instead of 10%. This is a pretty big increase on killing a target in the raid. So because of this, I want to make sure I can use Touch of Death as much as possible. If you glyph Touch of Death, the cooldown goes up by more than twice the amount. I believe it goes from 1.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes. That's quite a lot. So the reason why I prefer not to use the glyph is so I can use it almost twice as much, actually more than twice as much, almost 3 times as much compared to if I was using the glyph. So this is the reason why I prefer to sacrifice Touch of Death as a glyph so I can use it more often. Now, that's basically the entire build of Ashran. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just remember, it's based on cleave stunning, it's based on cleave damage, it's based on having fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. Hope you guys finally enjoy Ashran, and I'll see you on my next one. See you guys.